Hi there, cousin family. My name is Elial. Yesterday night, we felt very strongly the entrance of energy that has been accompanying the awakening of Neptune direct in Pisces. So today, I wanted to talk about a particular transit because we have several. Today, December 11th, that I mentioned on Sunday. If you want to go to that video. So this week was perfected the square between Venus in Sagittarius and the lunar nodes in Pisces and in Virgo. This continues till the end of the week, and it is centered in choices that respond to the value that we want to give to ourselves, the value that we want to give to our energy, to our time, resources, and what we value in our relationships or other areas of life. This is about choices with purpose, trusting that from there we can generate an expansion, even if at the moment this could, represent a challenge or implies to make changes in something that impacts in our routines and habits. And it could be not pleasant. Notice how we are the ones that we are sustaining those kind of conditionings that are making us feel limited. This could involve a process of consistency to change them. Could be a behavior that we frequently sustain with other people, or a decision that involves surrendering to a new way of living that generates a little bit of uncertainty. Neptune is the ruler of the North Node in Pisces, so perhaps we are not seeing clearly the how, but we do know where to go, or at least the next step. Virgo is very linked with what we do in the day-to-day experiences, habits that are accompanying us in the daily things. Also, it is linked with the service that we want to offer and our capacity of helping other people. But because it is the South Node, we talk about patterns that we need to clean. For example, depositing energy in relationships in which the other doesn't want to be helped, or it is not responsible with the chaotic situations that the person is creating in his or her life, or doesn't desire to change. So it is not our responsibility to force them. And making this kind of decisions, many times for many people, could generate a lot of guilt because they have very rooted having to be available for others, even if that is not good for them. But the truth is that this doesn't help for neither of the parties. So we need many times to do things feeling guilty, not waiting until the emotion walks away, because we need to act in coherence, and then we can manage the emotions. This could apply to give too much in certain circumstances, or being excessively I don't know if this is the word, servicial, okay, or being excessively at disposition of others, because this truly could respond to a fear of saying no, or to put a boundary to your disponibility because of the external reaction. And this ends up also creating imbalances for oneself and for the others, because sooner or later this attitude generates resentment. And I'm not going to center myself today in this, but anger, it is quite a key in these days with the square between Mars in Sagittarius and Neptune in Pisces, because where anger appears, irritability, that is showing you where your energy is being drained or dispersed. Well, for others, this has to do with habits of a lot of complaint, criticism towards themselves or towards other people, or what they don't like of life or of the path. And that, creates a lot of resistance to move forward, or even to make good choices for oneself. I mean, the excess of focus in what we don't like in a non-constructive way, because observing something that we feel that isn't working in our life, and placing ourselves in what we can do to change that, it is not something negative. But the thing is, when we are entering in this circuit of only seeing what is wrong, in that negativity spiral, and it is precisely this kind of patterns what lead people to make decisions that are actually not helping them, like contacting someone that they don't have to contact, putting energy in where there is no sense or expansion, because instead of observing that is their own mind the one that is conditioning their look of reality, they are seeking for someone or something on the outside to resolve or numb the discomfort. But if you try to put that energy in something else that can actually bring inner peace, projects, things that you actually like, enjoy, that is Venus. Not as a escapism of yourself, but on the contrary, things that can actually reconnect you. We are going to be grateful for that later. Those things are going to depend, of course, on the person and on what the person knows what they need to do. Because, for example, starting a garden, which is a very noble activity, doing that to reconnect with yourself could be something very nice. But if you know that you are procrastinating something, that same activity, you could be using that as an escapism. So Venus in Sagittarius call us to the inner honesty, because that is the way to recognize the things that are actually limiting our capacity of expanding ourselves, and to make contact with true desires of the soul, and also to transcend those barriers that are preventing growth. To this, we have to add that Mercury had already entered in Sagittarius. It is going to end the transit there because it's still going through mathematical degrees that reviewed in the retrogradation. That word was always a problem for me. So we are resolving topics of November, having to decide or communicate with a clarified vision right now of the circumstances, without false optimisms or expectations that are emerging from denial of reality, but with faith in the purposes of the learnings. Because for many people, they were strong in this 2025. When I talked about this in 2024, about this year that is about to end, I called it the inflection point, because 2026 is a year of beginnings and very substantial changes. But, well, there are phases that the soul wants to experiment, and there is an old paradigm in us, or an old version that is not connected with our essence, that we need to let go of. In a certain way, this always happens. I mean, the spiritual path is about this, in new levels and in more subtle ways. But the changes that we feel very strong, it is because they were rooted in experiences or aspects very linked with an identity, and an old identity too. So at last, other people could be facing certain decisions linked with resources, whether this is a way of generating them from a new space or letting go of something. Many people are experimenting endings because of the awakening of Neptune in the degree 29 of Pisces. So the patterns could appear in here, like perfectionism, like what is lacking, like how the context, it is not the ideal thing that we want right now, or the fear of not having, or losing even. So this could be excuses of the mind to avoid paths that are actually very evolutionary but unknown, and we don't have the control, because we don't have the control over anything. We just have the capacity to observe ourselves, to regulate, and to generate answers, response to what we are experimenting. This could also apply to relationships, because many people, many times, they don't want to live relationships that are not making them feel good, because of the fear to not being able to connect with someone else ahead, or the fear of being alone, or the fear of letting go of something that they were sharing in economic resources. This is very linked with the opposition that we experimented yesterday between Mercury and Uranus retrograde in Taurus. And retaining a relationship because of these reasons, it is not loving towards oneself and nor the other person. So as Venus in Sagittarius is a Venus of fire, it has this courage, this capacity of taking risks to explore a path of experimentation, symbolizes the trust on the inner callings. And with the square with the lunar nodes, this always brings certain level of discomfort. I wanted to clarify too that as Mars in Sagittarius is also in attention with Neptune, we have to be aware of impulsive decisions that are not being born from a real intention of growth. It is more like an evasion of oneself, or a fantasy that we want to believe, and then it comes the disillusionment. Disillusionments are masters of contact with an inner reality and an external reality, because they are linked. They are linked with each other, and they are a master to connect with intuition, and they are lessons to regulate expectations and to actually lead us to dreams that are possible. And when we are transiting that, of course, we are going to do so with the emotions that are emerging. But it is important to not attach ourselves to the deception, to the disappointment, because when we start to see everything negative and we generate limited beliefs, they are disconnecting from ourselves from opportunities. And many times going through the disappointment is the way of learning to choose genuine forms of being happy. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.